Four completely different games. One lets you see the world without eyes. One might make you call an old friend. One almost turned me into a truck mechanic. And another one, well, we'll see. These are some hidden indie demos I tried this week. Different projects, strange ideas, and the kind of experiments that big studios usually avoid. And honestly, this is why I love the indie scene. Let's start with the strangest one. Imagine waking up in a hospital bed and realizing something is wrong. Very wrong. You open your eyes, and the world is almost completely dark. This is the starting point of Blind Touch. According to the story, your character lost vision and memory after an accident. The world around you is still there, but you cannot see it in the normal way anymore. And this is where the main mechanic appears. Your walking cane becomes your new eye. Every time the cane touches something, the environment slowly appears around you. Walls, furniture, objects, even parts of the room are revealed through touch and memory. Instead of seeing the world directly, you reconstruct it piece by piece. As a concept, it is honestly very interesting because it forces you to think about something we usually ignore. Sight is incredibly important, but we rarely notice it because we use it every single day without thinking. The game immediately pushes you into that uncomfortable feeling of not knowing where things are. The menu itself already shows how much the developers care about the theme. Some elements are presented with Braille-inspired design, which connects the interface directly to the idea of visual impairment. It is a small detail, but those little touches are exactly the kind of thing that gives personality to indie projects. After the intro scene, you start moving through simple environments like the hospital room. The game then gives you the cane, and suddenly sound becomes your best friend. Audio cues guide you through the environment. Footsteps echo differently depending on surfaces. Objects produce subtle sounds, and sometimes you hear things before you even know where they are. Spatial audio is complicated to implement correctly. Players might use headphones, stereo speakers, surround setups, or sometimes terrible laptop speakers. Making sure the sound direction works in all of those situations is a real challenge. Modern engines provide tools for positional audio, but tuning it correctly still takes a lot of testing. If the audio cues are even slightly wrong, the player can get completely lost. The visuals are also very minimal. Most of the time you see a black and white world that slowly reveals itself when you interact with objects. It almost looks like the environment is being drawn in real time by your senses. The gameplay in the demo is simple. You perform small tasks, explore the area, and get used to navigating without normal vision. But the interesting part is that the game seems to hide something deeper. There are hints that the story is not just about losing your sight. The demo suggests there might be a mystery behind the accident and the missing memories. So, besides solving environmental puzzles, you might also be discovering what really happened to your character. Overall, I actually enjoyed it more than I expected. It is one of those ideas that immediately makes you curious about the final game. Not because it is huge or spectacular, but because the concept is different. And sometimes that is all an indie game needs. Now we go from darkness to something that feels like a warm blanket in winter. Pieced Together is almost the opposite of the previous game. Instead of tension and uncertainty, this demo is calm, soft, and surprisingly emotional. The entire game revolves around a scrapbook. You play as Connie, a woman in her 30s who is looking back at an important period of her childhood. When she was 10 years old, her family moved to a big city, and suddenly everything in her life changed. New place, new school, no friends, and that feeling of being completely lost. Until she meets Beth. But time passes. People grow up, and at some point they stop talking. The game begins many years later. Connie is sorting through old memories and building a scrapbook while writing an emotional letter to her former best friend. The first thing that really caught my attention is the visual style. Everything looks hand-drawn. Every sticker, every object, every image inside the scrapbook feels like it was made with colored pencils and paper. It gives the game a very cozy atmosphere, like someone carefully crafted every page by hand. As a player, it feels almost like opening an old box of childhood memories. And the color palette is beautiful. Soft tones, warm lighting, and little decorative details that make the entire interface feel alive. The gameplay itself is simple. You sort objects, place items in the scrapbook, and solve small puzzles that slowly reveal pieces of the story. Nothing complicated, nothing stressful. But that simplicity is intentional. The real focus of the game is nostalgia. Every item you place in the scrapbook unlocks a memory. School objects, photos, notes, and small personal things that remind Connie of moments she shared with Beth. If you are the type of person who gets emotional about old friendships, this game might hit you directly in the heart. I usually enjoy mechanics, systems, and gameplay complexity. Here, the mechanics are very light. There is no deep strategy, no skill challenge, nothing that would normally keep me playing for hours. And yet, I kept playing. That is always a strong sign that the game is doing something right. When a game outside your favorite genre still manages to keep your attention, it means the emotional design is working. Honestly, I would not be surprised if the full version of this game makes some players cry. So, if you are sentimental, this demo might attack your emotions without warning. You have been warned. Now, let's talk about a different type of game. The kind of game that secretly turns all of us into obsessive cleaning machines. Hozy is one of those cozy restoration games where you clean, repair, paint, and decorate houses. You walk into a messy room, full of dust and broken furniture, and slowly transform it into a beautiful space again. And I have a theory about these games. I think they are secretly made for obsessive-compulsive people. But the funny part is that maybe we are all a little bit obsessive-compulsive. Because this genre is everywhere now. There are cleaning games, renovation games, power washing games, house flipper games, and 100 variations of the same basic idea. And somehow, they keep appearing and players keep loving them. Why? I think there are two main reasons. First, these games work very well for streamers. When you are streaming live, you want something that keeps your hands busy, but does not require extreme concentration all the time. A relaxing game lets you talk with your chat while still making visible progress. Yeah, this is obviously my opinion. Second, these games are surprisingly good at relaxing the brain. You start cleaning a room, you pick up trash, you move furniture, you paint walls, and suddenly 30 minutes disappear. It is almost like a digital version of organizing your desk. Hozy follows exactly this idea. These games are interesting because they rely heavily on interaction systems. Every object needs to respond correctly when the player touches it. If the controls are not satisfying, the entire game falls apart. But when it works well, it creates that magical loop where players keep saying just one more room. And now we go from cleaning houses to surviving on dangerous mountain roads with a truck that constantly breaks down. Truck Mechanic, Dangerous Paths, is exactly what the title suggests. You drive an old truck through difficult South American routes while transporting cargo. The roads are beautiful but also brutal. Mud, narrow paths, steep hills, and mechanical problems waiting to happen. And the truck is not exactly in perfect condition. In fact, it feels like it might fall apart at any moment. During the journey, you must repair parts of the truck, manage damage, and continue to delivery while dealing with harsh environments. So the game mixes two main ideas, driving simulation and mechanical repair. The developers already created a similar game before, but with trains instead of trucks. So they clearly have experience with this kind of simulation. And you can see that experience in the interface. The menus are well organized, the systems are explained clearly, and the game even includes a detailed manual describing the different mechanics and tools available. Simulation games often become complex very quickly. The more features developers add, the more systems the player has to understand. And over time, the game grows into something much bigger than the original idea. You start with a simple concept, then you add one feature, then another feature, then another feature, then another, and suddenly you are building a monster. Truck Mechanic feels like a project that is slowly evolving into something very ambitious. The environment design clearly aims for a big cinematic feeling, almost like a AAA style landscape. But because it is an indie project, the scale is naturally smaller. Still, the core mechanics are solid. If you enjoy simulation games, this one is definitely worth watching. So, those were some of the hidden indie demos I tried this week. I love browsing indie demos. You never know what strange idea someone decides to turn into a game. Sometimes it is weird. Sometimes it is emotional. Sometimes it is just relaxing in a way you did not expect. But almost always there is something creative happening. If you made it this far, you probably enjoy discovering these small experimental games as much as I do. So now I'm curious. Which one of these demos sounds the most interesting to you? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you know other hidden indie demos I should try next, tell me in the comments. I'm always looking for strange little projects to explore. And like always, thanks for watching.